On the world news, Hurricane John kills 2 people in Mexico and 53 people killed across Gaza Strip in Israel. This is the world news. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on the world news on Providence Television International. My name is Edna Caesar Garrick. 2 people have died in a landslide after Hurricane John slammed into Mexico's southern coast Monday night, bringing heavy rainfall and triggering warnings of life-threatening floods. Rain hit the coast with maximum sustained winds of 120 mph as it made landfall south-southwest of the city of Maquila in Guerrero State at around 9:15 p.m. local time, according to the National Hurricane Center. John has since weakened a tropical storm and is moving northwest of the coastal city of Acapulco in Oaxaca State. Its slow movement and interaction with nearby mountains will likely contribute to catastrophic rainfall both along the coast and inland. 2 people have died were in their home in a town in Guerrero when a landslide hit following heavy rainfall, Governor Evelyn Salgado Pineda said on Tuesday. Just a day earlier, the storm had top-end winds of 35 mph, but it underwent too rapid intensification in a 24-hour period, ramping up its speed more than threefold. The storm could re-emerge across the ocean and intensify at its center. It's skating the southern coast of Mexico regardless of its erratic movement. John will continue to produce intense rainfall and life-threatening flash flooding along southern Mexico for the next few days. Osaka's governor said the state government has evacuated 3,000 people and set up shelters, while authorities have suspended classes in several coastal zones on Tuesday. Businesses in Puerto Escondido, a tourist destination in the southern part of the state, have closed after authorities ordered the suspension of all work on the area main bridges. Torrential rainfall of 6 to 12 inches with isolated totals around 15 inches are expected across coastal areas of Chiapas. In areas along and near the Oaxaca coast to southwest Guerrero, between 10 to 20 inches rain with isolated totals near 30 inches can be expected through Thursday. The rainfall is likely to cause significant flash flooding and trigger mudslide along the rugged terrain. 3 legislatures in the 225-member parliament as the country's new prime minister, making her the country's first woman to head the government in 24 years. Hours after appointing her as the prime minister, the president dissolved the parliament effective midnight on Tuesday and called for a snap parliamentary election on November 14. President Desniaki has called for unity amid ethnic divisions, clean politics, and pro-people economic reform is needed in the crisis-hit nation of 22 million. For decades, Sri Lanka was under the grip of a bloody civil war after its Tamil minority, mainly concentrated in the north, began a movement for an independent ethnic state. The victory of Anura Kumara Dissanayake as Sri Lanka's first Marxist-leaning president is the beginning of a radical new path for the crisis-hit island nation just more than 2 years ago. The 29-year-old former floor manager at a restaurant in Colombo was a regular visitor to Gota Gama, the tent city erected by tens of thousands of protesters in the city's Picturesque Gal-Face area. The protests in 2022 were aimed at toppling the then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa government, which was blamed for Sri Lanka's worst economic crisis since its independence from British rule in 1948. As Dissanayake assumed the presidential office, located right opposite Colombo's Gal-Face, Janasankar, who has spent weeks in the 2022 fighting for change in his country, said he believes his victory is a positive development for the country. Janayaka, who also hailed the 55-year-old leader for appointing Hariri Amasi as one of ANPP 3 legislator in 225-member parliament as the country's new prime minister, making her the first woman ever. At least 53 Palestinians have been killed across Gaza Strip in Israeli attacks on their homes and shelters in the past 24 hours, according to the Palestinian Civil Defense. One person was killed other night on Wednesday after a house was targeted in Beit Lahia in the north of the enclave. And in the Nuseirat refugee camp, 2 Palestinians were killed when their tent was hit by an Israeli airstrike. Those killed in central Gaza, Nuseirat, were from the El Lija family, who lost 11 relatives in August. On Wednesday, one body was recovered from the Kibbutz Aldas area north of Kafar. The man found was 70-year-old Kali Salim. The enclave defense said at least 3 people were also killed in Gaza City's Jingo neighborhood, where a family's home was bombed. At least 41,495 people have been killed and 96,006 wounded in Israel's war on Gaza. In Israel, the number of those killed in the Hamas-led attack on October 7 was at least 1,139, while more than 200 people were taken captives. Meanwhile, in the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces raided and arrested 6 residents. The military also arrested 1 man in the west. 6 more Palestinians were arrested in some towns. Earlier, Israeli forces stormed villages and arrested 5 Palestinian men. Israeli forces have also arrested 9 Palestinians from a refugee camp at the south of Bethlehem. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is engaged in his latest push yet to get more long-range Western missiles, along with the permission to use them deep inside Russian territory. He was said he would present Ukrainian victory plan to United States President Joe Biden at the White House on Wednesday, followed by meetings with presidential candidate Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. The Ukrainian effort comes as NATO remains divided on aspects of its approach to the war with Russia, particularly on the use of long-range weapons that could escalate the conflict. Ukraine is already using long-range missiles, fighter aircraft, and other high-grade weaponry provided by its Western allies to hit Russian targets in Crimea and other occupied areas in Ukraine. The Ukraine leader, who also spoke at the United Nations Summit of the Future on Monday, said he wishes to convince Kiev allies to drop their reluctance about the use of missiles to hit Russian assets outside Ukraine, insisting that they are closer to the end of war than might be expected. Zelensky's approach over the course of the war so far has also consisted of pushing for broader military and financial support, securing NATO membership, stressing the need to reclaim all Ukrainian territory occupied by Russia as a non-negotiable demand for peace, and advocating for more sanctions against Russia. Other key elements in Ukraine's demand have revolved around holding Russian leaders accountable for alleged war crimes and ensuring nuclear safety. If you are just joining us, this is the World News on Providence Television International. Indian-administered Kashmir is holding a second round of voting in election to elect a regional government. Kashmirs lined up outside police station on Wednesday to vote in the first local government election since New Delhi scrapped the semi-autonomous status of the disrupted Himalayan territory in 2019. Security was high as the region's 8.7 million registered voters prepared for the second round. Authorities said polling units opened at 7 a.m. Turnout is expected to be high, unlike in the past elections when separatists opposing Indian rule and demanding independence or Amiga with neighboring Pakistan boycotted polls. Regional parties have promised to fight for the restoration of autonomy. India's main opposition, Congress Party, have allied with a prominent regional group. Polling in the first of the 3-phase elections staggered due to the security challenges was held on September 18 when 61% of voters cast their ballots. There was a widespread protest in a region suffering from a decade-long rebellion. Mass arrests and a long communication blackout followed. Since then, the territory has been without an elected government, ruled instead by a federally appointed governor. About 500,000 Indian soldiers are deployed in the region. where a 35-year rebellion has claimed the lives of tens of thousands of civilians, soldiers, and rebels, including dozens this year. Reports say diplomats from 16 foreign missions, including the US and Russia, were set to arrive to observe the vote. Even after the polls, key decisions will remain in New Delhi's hands, including security and appointing Kashmir governor. New Delhi will also have the power to override the legislation passed by the 90-seat assembly. Pakistan controls a smaller portion of the mountainous territory divided since the end of British colonial rule in 1947 and, like India, claims it in full. Away from the foreign scene, now back home, President Bola Tinubu has called on world leaders to prioritize debt forgiveness for Nigeria and other developing countries from creditors and multilateral financial institutions. The president also asked the United Nations to commit to deepening relations among member states in line with the principles of inclusivity, equality, and cooperation. President Tinubu made the call in his address at the ongoing 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly at the UN headquarters in New York, United States. Represented by Vice President Kassim Shettima at the annual global event, the president said countries of the global South would not make meaningful economic progress without a special concession and a review of their current debt burden. President Tinubu also called for the recovery of proceeds of corruption and illicit financial flow, stating that the return of such funds to countries of origin is a fundamental principle of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuarid Lagbaja, has decried the rising cases of drug abuse among soldiers deployed in the various theaters of operation. The COAS raised the concern in Sokoto on Tuesday while declaring open a one-day seminar on warrior ethos organized by the Department of Army Transformation and Innovation. The COAS expressed hope that this seminar would address the issue of drug abuse among soldiers and assure troops of continued support in the provision of needed logistics and guidance for success of their operations. Lieutenant General Lagbaja also disclosed that the Nigerian Army has continued to review its tactics, techniques, and procedure in order to come up with better strategies to defeat terrorist challenges. The Academic Staff Union of University has given the federal government a 14-day ultimatum to resolve several lingering issues. ASU is seeking the conclusion of the renegotiation of the 2009 federal government ASU agreement based on the committee's draft agreement of 2021, as well as the release of withheld salaries due to 2022 strike action. ASU President Emmanuel Shideke, in a statement issued today, expressed frustration with government lack of commitment and delayed tactics, stating that the action are fueling a crisis in the public university system. He further disclosed that the 14-day ultimatum, starting from Monday, September 2023, 2024, had been given to federal government to address all lingering issues with ASU to the satisfaction of the membership of the union. The ASU president also noted that the union will not be held responsible for any industrial disharmony that arises from government failure to seize the new opportunity offered by ASU to nip the looming crisis in the board. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbe-Tokun, on Tuesday disclosed that the sum of 15,606,138,376 naira have been paid to 5,225 family members and next of kin of deceased police officers between 2023 and 2024. The Inspector General spoke in Abuja while presenting checks to other batch of slain officers' families. He noted that the disbursement on Tuesday covered balance payment for insurance policies for the years 2018 to 2024. He further stated that the disbursement on Tuesday reflects the commitment of the Nigerian police to ease the burden on the families of the deceased police officers who selflessly gave their lives in the service of their nation, Nigeria. With that, we've come to the end of the world news. But before we go, a recap. We brought you the story from Indian, which says that administered Kashmir is holding a second round of voting in election to elect a regional government. Kashmir lined up outside polling stations on Wednesday to vote in the first local government election since New Delhi scrapped the semi-autonomous status of the disrupted Himalayan territory in 2019. Security was high as the region's 8.7 million registered voters prepared for second poll. Authorities said polling station opened at 7 a.m. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is engaged in his latest push yet to get more long-range Western missiles along with permission to use them deep inside Russian territory. He has said he would present Ukraine's victory plan to United States President Joe Biden at the White House on Wednesday, followed by meetings with presidential candidate Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And we also said at least 53 Palestinians have been killed across the Gaza Strip in Israeli attack on homes and shelters in the past 24 hours, according to the Palestinian Civil Defense. One person was killed overnight on Wednesday after a house was targeted in Beit Lahia in the north of the enclave and in a neutral refugee camp. 2 Palestinians were killed when their tent was hit by an Israeli airstrike. 2 people have died in the landslide after Hurricane John slammed into Mexico's southern coast Monday night, bringing heavy rainfall and triggering warnings of life-threatening flood. John hit the coast with maximum sustained winds of 120 mph as it made landfall south-southwest of the city of Maquila in Guerrero State at around 9:15 p.m. local time, according to the National Hurricane Center. That's our package. Thanks for watching. Edna Sagarik is my name. Good afternoon.